I want you to imagine two cities. One is Stockholm, Sweden. Clean, quiet, one of the most gender-equal places on the planet. The other is London, UK. Loud, diverse, one of the most cosmopolitan cities in the world. These two places couldn't feel more different on the surface. But I noticed the same thing in both of them. Something that confused me at first, fascinated me second, and completely changed the way I think about culture, relationships, and society. Women in these countries say no more often, more confidently, and with less hesitation than almost anywhere else I've ever traveled. And the reason why is one of the most interesting stories I've ever come across. Here's the question that started all of this for me. Why do some cultures produce women who are far more comfortable saying no? Now, before you jump to conclusions, this video is not about men being victims or women being villains. It's not a debate about who's right or wrong. What it is about is something far more interesting. The invisible architecture of a society, the policies, the history, the economic structures that quietly shape how people relate to each other every single day. Because when I started digging into the data, talking to locals, and looking at the research, I realized that the rate at which women reject men in a given country is actually a window into something much deeper. It's a mirror of that society's values. And what Sweden and the UK reflect back is genuinely worth understanding. So let's ask the real question. What has to be true about a society for women to feel completely free to say no? A familiar problem. Most people, no matter where they're from, have experienced the awkwardness of rejection or the discomfort of not knowing how to express it. And for a lot of men traveling from countries where persistence is seen as romantic, or where women are more reserved in public, arriving in Sweden or the UK can feel like a cultural whiplash. The familiar problem is this: we often interpret other cultures through our own rulebook, and that leads to massive misunderstandings. So let's put down that rulebook for a moment and try to understand what's actually going on. A hidden cause. To understand why women in Sweden and the UK reject so freely, you have to go back in time, because this didn't happen overnight. It was built, piece by piece, over decades. Sweden began its journey toward gender equality in the 1960s and 70s, introducing policies that were radical at the time. Subsidized childcare so mothers could work. Paid parental leave for fathers, not just mothers. Equal pay legislation. Political quotas to get women into parliament. Sweden wasn't just talking about equality, it was engineering it into the system. In short, the hidden cause of higher rejection rates in these countries isn't attitude, it's freedom. And that freedom was deliberately constructed over generations. Economic impact. Let's talk numbers for a second, because the economics here are fascinating. Sweden consistently ranks in the top 3 countries globally for workplace gender equality. The gender pay gap in Sweden is among the lowest in the world. Female labor force participation in Sweden sits above 80%, meaning the vast majority of working-age Swedish women are employed. That's not an accident, that's a policy outcome. In the UK, women now make up almost half of the total workforce. Female entrepreneurship has grown significantly over the past 2 decades. More women than men are currently enrolled in UK universities. But when that economic dependency is removed, when a woman in Stockholm earns the same as her male colleague, lives independently and has a pension that doesn't depend on her marital status, she can afford to be selective. She can afford to say no, and she does. The economic impact of gender equality isn't just measured in salaries, it's measured in the quality of choices people are free to make. Business and institutional impact. It's not just individual economics either. The institutions and businesses in these countries actively reinforce female independence, and that has a compounding effect on social dynamics. In Sweden, companies are legally required to report on gender pay equality. Many Swedish corporations have 50-50 gender targets at the board level. Flexible working, remote work options, and generous parental leave, for both parents, are standard practice, not perks. And companies in Sweden and the UK have had to adapt. Marketing, product design, financial services, all of it has had to evolve to speak to women as autonomous decision makers, not as dependents. The business world reflects and reinforces the independence that the policy world created. Societal impact. The societal ripple effects of all this go even deeper than you might expect. In Sweden, one of the most visible societal changes is in fatherhood. Because parental leave is designed to be shared, and in some cases, a portion is reserved exclusively for fathers, Swedish men are significantly more involved in childcare than men in most other countries. You see it everywhere. Dads pushing prams through Stockholm parks on a Wednesday afternoon, fathers picking kids up from daycare, couples genuinely sharing the domestic load. In the UK, while the picture is more varied, Particularly across class and regional lines, there's been a meaningful generational shift. Younger British men are increasingly rejecting the provider model as their sole identity, and younger British women are increasingly unwilling to accept relationships built on inequality. What this creates societally is a different kind of dating culture altogether, one where relationships are built on mutual interest rather than necessity, where both parties are choosing to be there, not economically required to be. And when both people are freely choosing, the one who isn't interested is far more likely to say so. There's also a safety dimension. In societies with strong gender equality norms, women report feeling safer to decline. They feel backed by social consensus, legal protections, and a culture that validates their right to say no without consequence. That's not nothing, that's everything. Global perspective. Zoom out for a moment and look at this globally, and the pattern becomes even clearer. The World Economic Forum's Global Gender Gap Report ranks countries annually on 4 dimensions: economic participation, educational attainment, health outcomes, and political empowerment. Sweden routinely sits in the top 5. The UK is consistently in the top 20. Countries that rank lower on this index, across South Asia, parts of the Middle East, parts of Latin America, tend to show the opposite pattern in social dynamics. It's a correlation that researchers have documented extensively. The more gender equal a society is, economically, politically, and socially, the more agency women exercise in their personal lives, including who they date, who they don't, and how they respond to unwanted approaches. But here's an important nuance. It's not just about women gaining power. It's about everyone gaining authenticity. In more equal societies, men also report higher relationship satisfaction, lower rates of loneliness, and more genuine connections. Because when both parties are freely choosing, the relationship that exists is real. Some cultures interpret this through a lens of loss, particularly men from backgrounds where high female selectivity feels unfamiliar or threatening. But the global data suggests the opposite. Countries with higher gender equality also report higher happiness levels, stronger social trust, and better mental health outcomes, for men and women. Sweden and the UK aren't outliers to be puzzled by. They're early adopters of something the world is gradually moving toward. Okay, let's bring this home. If you've been watching this and thinking, this is just feminist propaganda, I'd ask you to sit with the data for a moment. Not ideology, data. Countries that invest in female economic independence, shared parenting, and workplace equality produce measurably happier populations, full stop. And if you've been watching this thinking, finally someone gets it, I'd also say, it's worth acknowledging that cultural transitions are hard. Men who grew up in different social environments aren't automatically wrong for feeling confused. Understanding is a two-way street. The truth is, what you see in Sweden and the UK isn't women becoming hostile. It's women becoming free. And free people make choices that reflect their actual preferences, not their constraints. And more broadly, the lesson from these 2 countries is this. When you build a society where everyone has genuine choices, you get genuine relationships. Not perfect ones, but real ones. Which brings me to the question I want to leave you with, and the one we're going to explore in the next video. If gender equality leads to happier, more authentic relationships, why aren't more countries moving faster to adopt these models? What are the forces, political, religious, economic, cultural, that push back against this kind of change? And are there examples of countries that tried to fast-track gender equality and failed? And why? That's next. If you want to be there for it, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and drop a comment below telling me, which country do you think has the most interesting dating culture, and why? I read every single one. See you in the next one. Safe travels.